Well, Senator, remind me on a couple things. Number one, how much surplus money are you dealing with right now?
Well, we're not dealing with. We think that what we've got is something in the range of about $1.2 billion, and we had over $3 billion worth of requests for that money, and so that's why we're going through a process to eliminate a lot of those requests.
So far, you've gotten $3 billion for $1.2 billion.
For 1.2. And there's still a lot of other things as we start through the budget process. Remember, this is just a request for appropriations that we're dealing with up until I think tomorrow. I think tomorrow everyone will have everything finished and into us. But there's still a lot of things that have to be funded as we go through this process. So there's a lot of money out there, and there's a lot of requests. We have created an interesting place for people to come and ask for money, and it's just come to the state, ask for it, ask for all you need. And I think a lot of that's been propagated through the Biden years with all this money that's come to communities. It's come to communities, it's come to education directly, and it's come to the state. We've actually proposed some partnerships in some cases and haven't had a lot of takers in that. But we do have some money to spend. But I think we're going to be rather limiting on that this year. And what we're going to go after is we're going to go after projects that have a statewide initiative or a regional significance that we can work on. And so if you're looking for if you're looking for new playground in your city, you may not get that. And it may not receive a lot of high consideration.
New playground's one example. Tell me some of the requests that you've gotten that maybe are a little more on the one-off side, maybe that don't have a statewide impact.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of interesting. I'm going to use Layton City. I was the mayor in Layton for a long while, and they've put together some amazing things in that community for the military because of the significance of Hill Air Force Base to Layton City and the boundary. But they've asked for a reflecting pool. And I think that'd be a wonderful thing to have, but it would definitely benefit the citizens of Layton a lot more than probably the citizens of the entire state.
So is that a no then? Are you saying no
I'm not saying that's a no. I'm going to see what the committee is going to do with it. We've asked all our committees to be very discretionary. We've talked to them and told them basically what I just told you, that we need to look at things of regional and state significance. And we'll hope they'll make the right decisions. We've had groups come in and ask to remodel churches that have had may have a historic significance. One of those that comes to mind quickly is Corinne. One of the news stations did a story on that the other day, which was very interesting, very significant. But I'm not sure it's something the state will turn into a great state treasure, if you will. The state has an obligation to take care of the state museums. I think if you talk regional significance, it's easy to talk about Tuacahn, regional drivers in the economy, maybe the Shakespearean. I think you look at the Hill Air Force Base Museum. I think you can look at, there are lots of areas where we can certainly put money. The other, and I don't want to dig into this real deep, Daniel, but we've had a lot of for-profits come in and ask for money this year. Organizations that are for-profit organizations. They're not nonprofits. They're for-profit, and they've come in and they want to grow their program. Of course, they write up a proposal that makes it significant to the state of Utah, and it gets reviewed in a committee. But I think we're going to probably put some rules together between now and next year that will be a little more difficult to just make us have to accept everything. A few years ago, we had 30 applications for our Beetle Committee, Business and Labor, and some of those were $15,000 up to multi-million-dollar asks for state economic development projects. This year, there was 60 that went into Beetle, and we had a lot last year, so we kind of intentionally moved some of that, but there was over 60 went into natural resources. There was 33 in another committee. But these are all things that, many of those again, probably shouldn't be funded by the state of Utah.
I was going to ask, how do you feel about for-profit companies coming in and asking for state money?
We look at it a lot of times. Education, we have a lot of for-profit vendors come in and ask. They've developed a very good product for educating children, and we participate in those. I think things need to be reviewed, but I think we've kind of reached a precipice here where we've got way too many for us to handle. They're way too large. We don't have that kind of money to distribute. And we probably need to be thrifty and make sure we stick with the state purposes, regional purposes that we're designed for. We give all the local communities the tools to raise funds, to tax, to provide the service that they provide for their community. And basically, we become frosting on the cookie.
So if you had a stack of papers on your table here, one paper per request, it would go pretty high.
It would go, well, I think we ended up with, I'm trying to remember the number, but there was significantly, some of these requests are really large. Some of them are up in the $40 million. We have requests to build roads in certain areas. There's a road on the Navajo reservation where we've been asked to go in and fund the EIS on it. There's roads out in coal country that probably make some sense for us to take a look at, maybe see if we can help bump that up on the list a little bit, get the study done, because there is an immediate economic impact from maybe building a road out where we can haul oil on it or coal on it.
What requests have you gotten that have made you laugh, or that you look at and think, there's just no way? I know you've gotten them.
I was a little bit surprised at the reflecting pool. Again, that came from my community. I spent 12 years as the mayor of Layton City, and I never asked the state for a nickel to help with a project. And we did some really nice things in the community. I will tell you that with one exception, and we did come down and ask for some money to help protect the easements under the Hill Air Force Base runway from development. And but that included Layton, Riverdale, and then also the Camp Williams area. Now we have some more requests in for those this year to help a little bit with some things that are going on under those runways and along the fence lines of Camp Williams. But there's some amusing ones. Some of these are, my gosh, you kind of hit yourself in the head and think, why would I want to get involved in there are some art colonies around the state that have been established, and they would like some funding to help them keep going and growing.
Art colonies?
Art colonies. I'll probably get in trouble for saying this, but 20 years ago it would have been a hippie commune, that they were asking us to fund. But there are some of those type of things going on in the state, and we have folks that think they're very credible and help us fund this. We want this to grow. We think it's a great idea. Sliced bread was not near as good an idea as this, and help us with it. So, but there's several of them, and the issue that I have is if I mention too many of them, they're going to know that I will probably have a meeting within sometime this week with the leaders of those communities, wanting to know why I targeted them on television.
That are upset at you, basically saying, no, you're not going to get the money.
That's right.
Well, I won't make you name any other names. Anything else, though, that comes to your mind that is...
No, it's just that this is a process. I've been appropriations chair now for several years, and I was in as vice chair of appropriations for several years prior to that. And what I have found is that there's no, everyone has plenty of, they can throw their pride out and ask, or they can gain more pride and puff up a little and ask some more. But there are a lot of really good things that we have in the state of Utah. Unfortunately, some of them we label as a community, but they're really regional. And let me give you an example of that one. We have a water line down Ogden Canyon, and it leaks terrible. But it's called Ogden City, and yet that supplies water to a lot of western Weber County. And so we kind of have to look between the lines, and we have to be careful not to catch ourselves in our own trap by having it labeled as a community and when it's really a regional project. And our legislature is very good about digging in and making sure that they they attach themselves to what they should and to the projects that we should be tied to. But there's a lot of projects out there that have regional significance. I used to use this line actually as a mayor once in a while. And no one in this county lives on an island, and we all have neighbors, and it's our responsibility to help our neighbor. So that blurs this line I'm trying to draw right now. But we do need to be careful, because I think if we start funding everything, we really won't have enough money to fund anything. I could use, I know you're limited on time here, but last year we changed the way that Beetle would distribute money. We actually took that distribution authority away from the legislature, and we gave it to the arts community. And we said, you know what arts can use, you know what needs you need to function the arts community in the state of Utah. It's pretty hard for the legislature to determine that unless it's your district. And so we asked them to distribute some of that money, and they did a great job of it. And then we asked them to look at the capital needs. So do I have a museum in one of the smaller outlying communities? Does it need new windows, and would a contribution to the state help? It would. Or am I going to give this community $15,000 for that they used to put a study together to ask for a $3 million request to build a museum? I think we have some out in the Twila Valley. There are some small communities out there, and they have some historically significant farms, but they've kind of fallen into disrepair, and they're asking to have have the state help in the repair of those. Where does that line become drawn? Do we need to help the Wendover airfield? Most citizens don't know what took place at Wendover. There was 20,000 people lived in Wendover at one time, and that helped develop the atomic bomb and the process for putting that together. And all those hangars and everything are out there falling into kind of disrepair. The runway is still good because Hill Air Force Base uses it as an emergency runway. But we're seeing significant asks to help repair that, keep it in repair. Is it going to be used by a lot of people? Probably not. Is it historically significant, the things that took place in the state of Utah? The answer to that's absolutely yes. So I think we have to look at everything singly, but we'd prefer not to have these requests. If communities can put together a fundraising program to take care of their needs, that's the tools we give them. I hated being called this when I was a mayor, but all cities and counties in the state of Utah are political subdivisions of the state. And we give them a lot of tools to take care of their business, and we wish they would kind of stay on track to that. There's a lot of this we're not going to be able to take care of this year.
Last thing I want to ask is, when can people expect that these funding decisions, that you'll make these decisions by? Is that the last week of the session, or when is that?
Well, yeah, I think most of them will have a pretty good idea by the week after next. The committees will all have their business, put together their prioritizations. That will all be done by tomorrow. And so
by the end of February, then.
Yeah, long before the end of February.
Mid to late.
I think we could look at mid-February. Most of where we're at, you get down to a little kicking and bopping and battles the end of the week, next week, but it'll pretty well be decided where we're going to be with this money.
Well, I'm sure you can't walk through the halls without getting jumped by somebody with their hand out.
There's times that at least there's a lot of folks think I'm the most loved guy in the state right now, but that can really change fast, I promise you.
Once you make your decision.
Once that decision's made, it'll change quickly.
Thanks, Senator.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate it.